Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Autohrycfix. Just like to say thank you for everybody who's been watching the channel, and hopefully you guys been learning something. Um, so I don't know if you guys noticed, but the prices of cars, used and new, have been skyrocketing, and also with interest rates, the prices of financing a car is getting quite high as well. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a few tips on what to look for when buying a secondhand car. I've purchased a few secondhand cars over the years, and so I'll just give you some of my personal tips that I look for when I'm buying a used car. Today we're going to be using my 1997 Honda Civic as an example, and a few things that I'll show you that are important to look for to make sure that you're buying a good car that won't cost you a lot to maintain after you buy it. Um, I'm looking more into cars that are valued between $1,000 to $5,000 range. Um, like this first car, um, this my Honda Civic, maybe 2 years ago. Um, 1997. It was worth maybe about $1,500, max 2 grand. I've been seeing a few of them going for about 5 grand. So that's a considerable hike in price. So you want to look for a good deal. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and start taking a look at these things. All right. So when you first find the car that you're interested in, and you've contacted the owner to come and see it to take a visual inspection, um, first thing to do that I would do is just take a walk around. Just walk around the car. Just make sure that you don't see anything visually that pops out at you like a whoa, stop right here, walk away from the car. Some things you can be looking at is gaps between the fender, the doors, the hood, just to make sure that all the gaps are okay, to make sure that it looks like the car has not been in a major accident. Also, another thing to look at is the paint to see if the colors match. You just want to keep going, look around, just make sure everything is okay, that the windshield's not cracked. Um, if the windshield is cracked, what I suggest is just to look and see what cracked the windshield. If you can see, if it is just a little stone chip and it's cracked from there, then that's okay. You know that it was cracked because of the stone chip. But if you see that it's cracking from underneath here, like underneath the call grill of the windshield wipers, or somewhere on top, and it's just coming out, that's a good indication that there's rust that is formed underneath the windshield, which is bubbling up, which is causing pressure on the windshield, and that's why it cracked. So you might not think like, oh, you know what, good price, I'll just change the windshield. But in the long run, when they'll take the windshield off, they'll see that it's rust. There'll be rust issues underneath. That's one thing to look at. So again, continue looking around. Older vehicles, they might have some dents here and there. I wouldn't worry too much about that. Like on my quarter panel here, you can see that it's quite rusted. Major no-no, but I'm eventually going to repair that because I like to keep the car for as long as I can. Um, when you see big ballooning like this or like this, it's a good indication that there's probably maybe some water coming into the car as well. So I would put an X on that. So yeah, we continue looking, just make sure that everything is okay, that the bumper is in place, there's no water in the headlamp and the tail lights, and yeah. Also, you want to make sure and see that the headlamps are okay, no cracks, everything is pretty sturdy. All right, so another thing to look at, hi Baker. Another thing to look at would be the tires. Just go around, just look at them quickly, make sure there's no cracks in the tires, indicating that they're old and that might need to be replaced. Also, you can just check the tire tread and see that there's still quite a bit of tread, so you don't have to buy new tires as well. I know sometimes when you're going to see a car, it's you can't necessarily right away go have it inspected by a mechanic. So you can just look, if it has mag wheels, you can just look through them and see the discs, put your fingers, run through them. If there is grooves on the discs, good indication that the discs might need to be replaced and that the pads will have to be replaced as well. Another indication that the discs and pads are, or your brake system will need to be replaced or fixed is if there is a whole bunch of like gold dust powder that's stuck to the rims. That's a good indication, maybe even that the caliper the caliper might be even seized up, or that the pads are completely down all the way to the metal, or at eventually, if not, and the previous owner says, oh no, I replaced this, it just also maybe a little bit alarming. See, the other owner didn't take care of the vehicle as well as they thought. So again, just take a look at the around and make sure everything is okay. Next, suspension. For vehicles that have upper control arms and lower control arms, it's quite easy to check. You can check the ball joints on the top. You just put your hand underneath, grab the ball joint, and just shake the wheel and see if there's any loose. If there's quite a big loose, you'd feel the control arm move inside the ball joint. The same thing in the back. If there's any upper or lower control arms, you can check the upper control arm by the same thing, by just moving the wheel and feeling if there's any looseness in the system. So far, recap. Check the body on the outside just to make sure everything is okay, that the colors are all right, and the gaps. Number 2, check the tires just to make sure that they're in good condition and that there's no cracks and they're worn well. Another thing to do is a visual inspection of the brakes through the wheels and just check the discs and see if it's smooth or if it has ridges. Like I said, if it has ridges, it's a good indication that you'll have to replace the discs. Is that good? We're good? Okay, we're moving forward. All right, so the next thing you'd want to check is underneath the hood. Just pop it open and just give a quick visual look to see how it looks under there. Just check if there's any oil leaks on the valve cover gasket, or if you have any leaks between the head and the block. You can have a visual inspection of the radiator just to make sure if there's no like green calcification that's coming around it anywhere. It would indicate a leak, which can be quite costly for you guys when after you purchase the vehicle. I know that this car is a little bit dirty. I haven't been driving it in a while. It's been parked for a bit, but eventually next summer, if everything goes well, I'm going to try and get another vehicle and make a build on that. Stay tuned. Again, you just want to make sure if you can, if it's not too hard to remove the air box on the vehicle that you're looking at, just remove the air box, take a look and see the air filter and see how the condition of the air filter is. And yeah, the hoses, brake hose. If you can take a look at the drive belts, see if they're not cracked or dry. Again, take a look, antifreeze, make sure the reservoir is full, and because if it's empty, it's a good indication that there might have been a leak in the system, or you might have a head gasket problem, which these things add up and could be costly to repair afterwards. Another thing to look at is the battery. Just visually look at the battery, make sure that there's no leaks around it. Check the terminals to see if there's no green calcification around it, just to make sure that there's good points of contact, and yeah, see so that you don't have to replace the battery. It's a small thing to do, but you know, you also want to have a new battery when you're buying new cars, so you're not stranded anywhere. So another thing that you'd want to do is start the car and just listen, just to hear if any abnormal noises coming from the engine, any knocking noises, any large clacking from the valves. Like I said, any knocking noises coming from the crank on the bottom of the block. You'd also want to start the car also to hear if there's any squeaking noises coming from any of the power steering or the alternator. On mine, the alternator is making a little bit of a noise. I think it's because I just don't use the car that often and the bearing is starting to seize up. That's something I'm going to look into as well. And hopefully I'll be able to show you guys in future videos how to either replace that alternator or rebuild it. Alright? all in all, this engine sounds quite healthy. All right, so another thing you would want to do is when you start the car, let it run for a few minutes and make sure that there's no discoloration in the exhaust fumes that come out, like you're not annoying puff of white smoke that just comes out, or like a antifreeze, like a sweet smell. That's an indication that there will be a problem with the head gasket. Like you see, my car, it's just normal white kind of clear smoke coming out of the tailpipe, so it's running quite fine. Another thing is when you start the car, give it a few revs as well, just to hear the exhaust. Make sure there's no holes in it anywhere, or any leaks in the exhaust system. All right, so another thing that you would look at when buying older used vehicle is you just want to look underneath the vehicle to make sure there's no rot or holes in the floor. And at the same time, you can take a look at the exhaust system. And if there any brake lines or gas lines that run underneath the car, you could just take a look and see the condition of them. I know a lot of older vehicles have the brake lines and the gas lines made out of metal, but as they got more recent, they were coated with like a plastic coating on top of them, which would protect them a lot better. And also, you'd want to take a look at the gas tank just to make sure the gas tank is not too rusted or any damage to the gas tank as well. And again, newer cars have more of a plastic type of gas tank as well, so you have a better chance of it being in a better condition. So you just want to look underneath the car, fast, just like that. So you just want to take a look underneath and see, and make sure that everything is okay. There's no holes in the floor, and the gas tank and exhaust seems to be okay. All right, so next tip, look in the trunk. Just take a look at it. I would check underneath to see if the spare tire is there and the kit to jack up the car. You always want to make sure that our previous owner left those things in the car, because that's your safety. Just in case you ever get into a flat tire, you want to make sure that those two things are there. Again, spare tire and the jacks. Another thing you'd want to look in is maybe just look underneath the carpet if it's a car that comes with the jack and the spare tire underneath, just to make sure that they take a look and see if there's no water in the tub, indicating that there might be a leak coming from anywhere, the tail lights or the back window. Just a few tips. Another great reason on going on a longer road test is that you get a feeling on the transmission. If it's an automatic transmission, you would feel that if there's any hesitation in shifting between gears, if there's any hesitation, knocking, if you give gas and it doesn't want to shift, or it shifts too quickly, good indication that the transmission would need to be replaced, and that is quite costly. If you have a manual transmission, another thing that by doing a road test is that you could test out all the gears, make sure that there is no grinding between gears, that the synchros are all okay, and that the bearings, listen for any noises to see if there's any bearings that make noise that might need to be replaced as well. Another thing when you're doing a road test, try and do a U-turn somewhere, both right and left, and to hear if there's any knocking noises coming from the drive shafts. If you have a knocking noise while turning, like a clack, 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 good indication that the drive shaft would need to be replaced. All right, so here, those are a few things to look into when going for a road test on your new used vehicle. Another thing to look into is check the handbrake, make sure that it's functional, make sure that it goes up and down, and that it's not jammed. And the ease of it going up and down. It's not just like it goes up and then it has you have to force it to come back down. Good indication that the handbrake cables are starting to seize up, or they are seized. Again, there's two different types of handbrakes. You have the handbrake here, and then you have the one that's on the foot pedal as well on different types of vehicles. Again, you just push it down and then release it. If it comes back up quite easily, everything seems to be fine. If you push it down, and you have a hard time pulling it back up, or you have to manually pull it back up, good indication that the handbrakes cables will need to be replaced, or there's something wrong with the brake system in the back. With the newer vehicles that have the electronic brakes, you just want to push it up, listen to hear if the motors are working properly, and then push it back down to make sure that it releases properly. And when you go for a road test, you just want to make sure that there's no force, like there's no drag in the back, which indicates that everything is okay. All right. Another thing to look into when you're in the interior of the vehicle would be if you have an automatic transmission, start the car and put your foot on the brake and run through all the gears. If you'd say you put it from park to drive or to reverse, and it's forcing a little bit, it'd be good. It shows you that the shifter cable might be starting to seize up, or there's something that would need to be looked into to see why that is. Usually, you're supposed to run it. You're supposed to go quite smoothly between gears when shifting an automatic vehicle. Again, for a standard car or a 5-speed, you'd have the shifter knob. Just make sure that it moves freely, not too freely, that it's too loose, because that would indicate that maybe the bushings on the shifter might need to be replaced, and that it's not too hard. If it's too stiff, it's a good indication that the bushings are starting to seize up and that you need to replace it, or the shifter rods or the shifter cables would need to be replaced, something to look into. So those are two other things to look into when looking in the interior of the car. Again, another thing would just turn on your lights and make sure that all the lights on the dashboard light up, and on where your radio and your heating system is, when the shifter is. If they're little things, they're little lights, but to replace them, quite costly if you don't know how to do it yourself. Take it to the garage. It takes maybe like an hour or two to change one little light bulb. That might be $5. But with today's costs, things will add up. All right. Another thing to look into would be safety. Seatbelts. Make sure that there's no rips in the seatbelts and that they work properly, and that they go into the buckle properly and dislodge from the buckle properly as well. You don't want to have to go and buy new seatbelts. They're quite expensive as well. And again, when you turn the key on, make sure that there's no SRS light that is lit up and stays on. Usually when you turn it on, within 6 seconds, the SRS unit does an auto check, and if everything is okay, the light turns off. If the light stays on, it's a good indication that something is not working. It could be a seatbelt, it could be a seatbelt buckle, it could be impact sensors, it could be the unit itself. Again, another costly thing to avoid. Alright, so there you have it. A few tips that I hope that can help you guys when you guys are buying your next used car. Again, they're just these personal tips that I have used over the years while purchasing used cars. So I'd just like to say again, thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. And I really appreciate all the comments, and we'll see you next time. Alright guys, have a good one.